think about the fall garden, I look to spring for my inspiration, and I'm pulling my favorites from the spring garden for fall. I break them into these categories: roots, bulbs, greens, and herbs. Hi, my name's Alyssa with Garden to Kitchen. I've been kitchen gardening from seed for a decade, and it's the end of July, so I'm going to share with you what I'm sowing, what I'm not sowing, and what I'm sowing soon to prepare for the fall garden, but also end of summer. So let's dive right in. Last week I sat down and I sowed some seeds. It's not too late for you. Dive in. You've got plenty of time still. I'm going to show you some of and tell you a little bit why I sowed these seeds. So here I have some Florence Fennel, two 6-cell trays of beets, and then leeks as well. So this would cover some of our herbs, roots, and bulbs. So Florence Fennel was one of my absolute favorites in the spring garden. This technically is an herb, but what I'm going for with this plant is this apple of the herb. And the entire plant is edible from all the way to the fronds. I use this in so many different dishes. I really enjoyed this. This is a notoriously finicky plant. And the key to making sure that this plant doesn't bolt is actually mounding dirt up the bulb as it grows so that it doesn't bolt. So that's my number one tip for you. I tried growing this for the first time this year and successfully grew it. So I was really happy with that. Secondly, I've got beets. Beets are one of my absolute favorite root vegetables to enjoy in the garden. So I've sown some chayoga, is maybe how you say it. And I don't know how to pronounce this beet variety. A girlfriend of mine recommended it to me because she had it at a dinner and said it was stunning. So she had said, you have to try it. So I sowed some of those. When it comes to root vegetables in the garden, I find that beets are pretty resilient to transplant in from a 6-cell tray like this, whereas, your radishes and carrots are really not resilient to transplant. Those you're going to want to sow directly in the garden. And in terms of sowing soon, this is on my sowing soon list. So I have these Corel carrots did incredibly well for me. This was a free seed from Baker Seeds. Thank you so much. I will be sowing those again. I always love some botanical interests. Their rainbow carrots were really lovely. And I'll definitely do some radishes. This is the one I'm most excited about. I also have not tried these before, but if it's not the traditional color you see in the grocery store, I want it. So I want to try this green radish. And the reason that I want to leverage transplanting wherever possible, because I find that Mother Nature loves microgreens. So if I were to just sow these in the garden, I would have slugs and birds eating these up before they even had an opportunity to grow to maturity. So even when I transplant these in the garden, I'm going to cover them until they grow big enough that I'm confident they're not going to get gobbled up by my lovely neighbors. I also have these leeks sown here. They're hard to see because they're so itty bitty when they first pop up. I just love little seedlings. I cannot get enough of this process, I'm telling you. So I'm excited. I've actually not grown leeks before. I've grown onions, I've grown garlic. So I'm really excited to play around with this bulb/allium and see how it overwinters. All right, so next up I have some things that will be a little bit experimental, only because in my Zone 8B garden here in the Pacific Northwest, how the garden performs in September really predicts a lot of what our harvest can look like. So I want to go ahead and try some things and see if they work out. If we have a beautiful September, I'll have some nice harvests. If not, at least I tried. So two of my things that I am essentially summer succession sowing are going to be some corn and edamame. So this corn is called Orchard Baby. It is a smaller variety, so really good for a backyard gardener. They only get to be about 4 feet tall and you get 2 ears on each. This crop says it matures at 65 days, so if I have it in the ground and it does well through September, I might get another succession of corn. We'll see. I haven't grown a ton of corn in my gardening career, so we'll see how it does. The second one is these edamame. This is a bush variety of beans, so you don't need any support. You don't need anything to just let them do their thing. They're a pretty short crop as well, 80 days. I have them planted here in this row behind me. They're almost all ready to go. These do really well, both fresh and they freezer preserve really well. I was recently doing some research on grams of protein per cup serving, and edamame far and away really packs the punch, and I'm a little bit of a protein junkie. Therefore, I was like, I'm gonna try another round of these just to see if I can get a little more into the freezer for my family to enjoy through the cooler season. I also did not do a good job of parenting my zinnias. I was not a good plant parent to them, so I decided to do another round of zinnias to see if I can get them going and get a few blooms before the end of the season. So I've got a couple 6-cells of those as well. By the way, I love these 6-cell trays from Epic Gardening. If you haven't checked out their products, I've been using these now for almost 2 years, which for me means 6 seasons because I'm gardening spring, summer, and fall. All right, the next big category to tackle is greens. And this is where I'm going to talk about what I've sown, what I'm not sowing, and what I'm going to sow soon. So let's dive in. Greens are one of my favorite things in the garden. And what has really helped me to grow greens successfully is understanding their familial roots. And so I like to break them into categories. They are broken into categories. You've got your lettuces, your brassicas, which are going to be, your Brussels sprouts, your heading brassicas like broccoli and cauliflower, Romanesco, and then also your other leafy brassicas like kale. Another category being hickory. So I'm a little bit newer to the hickory family, and I am quickly falling in love with it. So I grew this radicchio from seed this spring, and it really caused me to fall in love with the hickory family. It not only was really beautiful, it has a really great flavor to it. It has a nice bitterness, but when you grow it from seed in your own garden, once you throw some homemade dressing on it, it is sweet, delicious, crunchy. Even cut endive and radicchio hold up really well in the fridge, better sometimes than your lettuces. So I'm really leaning into this category. I went all in on the radicchio. I had a couple different kinds of radicchio that I'm sowing for fall. And then endive, again, also part of that hickory family. And then that arugula. So I'm really excited for these in the fall garden and to continue to learn a lot more about this family. Something that's going to be important for you if you decide to bring radicchio into your garden. There's multiple varieties where their growth habits, they're bred for different growth habits. So be sure to read the fine print. You're going to look for 2 differentiating factors. Either radicchio, that they don't encourage you to do anything to it, just let it grow as is in the garden. But there is a second category where they encourage you to force it. If you know what forcing is, great. If you don't, give it a Google. You'll see forcing also with rhubarb, for example. And it's totally optional to force your rhubarb. I don't do it with mine, but just for context, that's where else you might see it in the veggie garden. All right, it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The thing I am not sowing for fall, which is brassicas, and I will tell you why. Mother Nature is very tuned in to my kitchen garden by now, including our villain in the kitchen garden, the cabbage moth or cabbage looper, whatever common name you know it by. I've been doing some research. I haven't gotten to the bottom of this, but in my experience, once the threat of frost has passed, the cabbage looper is out. Once we get our first frost, it's gone. Our season has gotten a lot longer in the time that I've lived in the Pacific Northwest, which means I have a lot more opportunity for that cabbage moth to enjoy my brassicas. So for me right now, I'm going to keep planting brassicas in the spring, planting them out while there still is that threat of frost, allowing them to get to maturity. Once they get pretty robust, they're a lot more resilient from getting attacked by the cabbage moth. Whereas if I were to put them out in the garden right now, they would get completely eaten alive. So I'm not putting brassicas in the garden right now, which makes me a little bit sad, but we have to make some sacrifices to accommodate what works best for us. All right, I've already talked about a couple of things that I'm going to be sowing soon. Carrots, radishes, those will go directly into the ground. And then I haven't yet planted or sown my lettuces. This was one of my favorite lettuces in the spring garden, also a free seed from Baker Seeds. Thank you so much. This was a surprising favorite for me. Stunningly beautiful, really great texture. My friends and family loved it, who I shared it with. It was a really fun one. This lettuce, Merveille de Quatre Saisons, Marvel of Four Seasons, translated, holds up to its name. A really nice kind of butter style lettuce, ombre, merlot to green. So color, flavor, texture really hit for me. This is one of my all-time favorites. Forellenschluss, romaine. The Brits call it speckled trout. Also holds up to its name, so it is green with some really pretty kind of burgundy speckles throughout. As you can tell, I have a thing for green and burgundy. So yeah, that wraps up what I'm sowing, what I'm not sowing, and what I'm going to be sowing soon for end of summer and fall. I hope this was helpful. If it was helpful for you, you know what to do. Have a good day.